Good morning, members. It's just gone 10 a.m. 22nd November, Wednesday, that is 22nd November. We're in Annandale Town Hall. A good chunk of us anyways, the rest are online. So, very warm welcome to Annandale Eskdale Committee, which is being live streamed and recorded. The recording will be made available on the Council's website for public listening. Remote participants, please follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting the microphone, switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting, write and speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute. If you are in the hall, then you can do this on your phone, your iPad, or even lift your hand. Give me a nod, that would even do. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members. No material should be posted in the chat function if it is intended as part of the discussion. All standard orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting, please enter leave in the Teams chat function for a period of time and then write join when you've rejoined the meeting. All members should speak clearly and directly into the microphone when making contributions, and when referring to reports, please, if possible, provide reference points in regards to the page and the paragraph number, if that's possible. Please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative recommendations. First item on the agenda, first thing to do I think is to approve remote participation to members who are appearing remotely. But Tracy, can you give us a said and apologies, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. We've got 10 members present in total, 5 members present in person at Annandale Town Hall, being the Chair, Councillors Drybrough, Jamieson, Mail and Wilson, and 5 members present on Microsoft Teams, being the Vice Chair, Councillors Davis, McGregor, Marshall and Thompson. And I've got one apology from Councillor Karen Crothers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Tracy. So we'll try to work, so we're open and transparent to the public. Our first agenda item on the meeting after the minutes. So we'll just go to declarations of interest first. Any members got any declarations of interest? Councillor Mail?
Yeah, Chair. Page 31, 4.6.5, the Langham Primary. I'm Chairman of the Langham Alliance that's handling this transfer, but I didn't see it as one that's going to be controversial to discuss. So unless somebody starts to ask questions, I'll just stay in the room, if that's okay.
No problem whatsoever. As much a connection as anything, but you've captured that, Tracy. We're here to approve the... Sorry? Richard Brody's got it. Oh, sorry, Richard. Councillor Brody.
Yeah, just Chairman of Ann Harbour Action Group, but it's a statement of connection, really, because I don't think we're going to make any decisions on that today. So, good, thank you.
No problem whatsoever. Well done. Congratulations. We'll get to that point in time, Richard. So item number 3 is the minute of the last meeting is for approval. Are we happy to approve that minute? Get nodding heads within the room. Don't see anything. Richard's hand's still up, but I take that as historical. Thanks, Richard. Thank you very much. That's item number 3 is approved in. See, that's true reflection. Next item is number 4, which I don't think, I'll just get clarification. I don't think anybody's joined from the report authors as of yet. Is that the case? We'll speak to that. Or do we have any in the... Is that an un... No, have a wee check. Can I just check, Kath? Please, Kath, are you on this call?
I am, yes. I'm from Children and Families Social Work, here to represent them today.
Excellent. No, thanks very much. So what we'll do, for the sake of just waiting on the NHS catching up, we'll skip item 4 at the moment. We'll move to item 5, but a couple of words just before we get there. So it's Social Work Services Director end of year assessment of the business plans 2019 to 23 performance, and it's for the 1st of April 22 to the 31st of March 2023. Our next report is the annual performance report for the Social Work Services Director. I'm sure that members will have a view on the level of detail contained within this report, but I think this report is too general, with only one reference to Annandale and Eskdale within it. I suppose we'll get to that point as we go through the questions. Can I request that officers consider this for the next report for this committee as more detail disaggregated to the local area rather than information applicable to the whole of the region would be far more useful to us and our local constituents. So, Kath, I've got a different, but it's Kath, you're here you're online rather than being in the hall, but you're here in regards to speak to this. I wonder, do you want to speak to this? Sometimes we go straight into questions, but I wonder just for the chance of local members getting a chance to get a broader view. We've already read the report, but just get a broader view. Do you want to speak to the report first, even at just 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll come back to questions after that?
Yeah, of course. I suppose it's quite difficult to be more specific when the numbers in terms of our child protection registration are quite low in the Annandale and Eskdale area, which obviously then makes it there's a potential for that information not to be confidential. So just to sort of raise that as an issue if you're looking at more details. We've, over the last period, we've had a real focus on developing our staff. We've looked at, so during COVID, there was a period where we had a reduction in the amount of training we were able to offer to our staff. So over the past 18 months, we have provided 5-day child protection training, which was mandatory for all our social work staff and was attended by some of our multi-agency colleagues. We've continued to deliver signs of safety training, which is an approach that we and have implemented within social work, which is really looking at relationship-based practice. It's looking at identifying the strengths within families and using the existing networks within families to support children and their families so that we have a more sustainable plan for families and for children once social work involvement comes to an end. We've also undertaken training on child protection orders so that staff have a good understanding of when the threshold would be that we'd be looking for that emergency order to protect a child, and then how they would progress that order through the courts, and then in terms of sharing that information with parents and the children's hearing. We continue to look at how we support staff in a more trauma-informed way. So we're looking at undertaking trauma-informed training, and we've begun a programme of work. So there's a Safe and Together programme of delivery, which really looks at how we work with victims of domestic abuse. So it's focusing the emphasis on the behaviours of the perpetrator and how to support the survivor through their journey to changes in their life and reduce the risk to children and to survivors of domestic violence. Those are programmes that continue to be delivered and we're implementing within social work. From a child protection view, we've made quite significant progress. The numbers of children's names have reduced. We are in quite a positive position in that the work that we're undertaking has led to no children's names being placed back on the register after there's been a period of registration, which is an indicator that the plans that we're putting in place are sustainable in reducing risk to children. So within the multi-agency following that period, staffing continues to be an issue for us. I think that's a national issue. We're finding it much harder to recruit social workers. We've had a recent interviews for senior social workers, and we've found it more difficult to recruit senior social workers. So that puts us in a more challenging position in that we're trying to deal with more complex work without the staff that we need to do that work. So that creates some issues for us and I suppose puts more pressure on the staff that we have undertaking the work.
Thanks so much, Garth. Is that you? Take it is it?
Yes, I think for me that would be an update. Has anybody got any questions?
Yep, actually, I would think we will have. Thanks very much for that, Kath. Just went through them with the pause. So, Councillor Driver first, Archie.
It's true, and you know, it's hard on you. This is you know, derogative remarks to yourself for taking us through this particular mark. But it would have been nice to see somebody senior come along and deliver this, understanding that social work is obviously pretty busy at the moment. There's two particular points I want to raise with you, Kat, and if you can't answer them, please just get some word back to me by email or something like that. And it's the unpaid work scheme. I mean, I've managed to visit them over the summer this year, and it's great what they're trying to do up there. And I know that a lot of those that are on the unpaid work scheme are helping out local charities and things like that to try and get their hours in as quickly as possible. So, you know, big well done to them. The second part is on the recruitment side of things. And social work had a grow your own system in place for many years, and I'm just wondering where that is at the moment, if we're finding it difficult to recruit social work staff. Do we still have a grow your own system in place, or what's going on?
So in relation to your first question, I can't answer about unpaid work. You would, and I'm not sure if anybody's present from Justice Services, but it would be Justice Social Work that you would need an update. So I'm not aware of, and I'm not involved in anything in relation to unpaid work. In relation to your second question, yes, we continue with our Grow Your Own scheme, and that continues to be successful, and we are looking at increasing the numbers of students. The people we are able to recruit are family support workers, and so as a career progression for family support workers, we have in place studentships that they can apply to each year. The number each year will vary, but that is recognised as a really helpful and an important way of us recruiting and retaining staff.
Thanks very much for that, Kath. Thank you, Archie, for the question. Councillor Jimison, it is George.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, thanks for the report. And again, possibly these are questions you can't answer, but I'll fire them away anyway. I'm looking at page 27. It's partly to do with the report writing. Yes, we want to know the successes and what the changes that have worked, etc., but I'm really keen that the councillors are really well aware of the major challenges that social services have and where we need to be aware of where there's help needed, so that we can be cognizant of the challenges as well as the successes. And that's not to be judgmental, but there's an emphasis on identifying where we're doing things well and the restructuring that's made. And we use the word significant a lot, etc., but we really need to know warts and all, so that we are aware and not sanitised in any way about what's going on in social work, so that we can be realistic in our endeavours as politicians to try and help folk. I'm a broken record on this, and Steve Morgan knows it well. All services are stretched, but the connectivity within services is quite relevant, very, very relevant, I think, to social services. And schools and social services are two examples of such a case. And I know lots of teachers and I know lots of LAs, they'll comment on early intervention, children that come to school that clearly are not being well looked after, that they're dirty. I know one LA that's actually helping a child learn how to wash her face and clean her teeth. And when they look deeper into that, dad's unemployed, mum's not there, dad sleeps in, the wee lassie gets to school, and that's just one incident. So getting to the crux of my question is, how much can we get added value from social service and education and other services, but I'm looking at education, how can we make that work more effectively so that we get a 2 + 2 that makes 5, and we get help from education to help social service and the serendipitous help that social service can give to education. I'm not convinced we're doing it well enough, and I'm pretty sure it's because of lack of resources that putting that early effort in to make sure that we have got teachers that are aware of the requirements of social services and vice versa. Because at the end of the day, these children are not getting the best education because they're not getting the best home life. And we've got 5 or 6 hours within school where it can potentially make a difference. But teachers need to know where their responsibility ends, where their skill ends, and where social service begins, and where the overlap is. So really my question is, how can we best use our resources in the council to help children, not only in the short term, but in the long term?
Question directed at myself or education? Sorry, I wasn't sure.
It's to both. I've spoken to education as well, but I know that Stephen's aware of this, Stephen Morgan, that is, and it's, I don't see it really developing, and I've got closer contacts with education than I have with social services, so I'm keen that social services see the benefit and the value in that carryover when the children go to school, and also the feedback that education professionals can give to social services in actually being part of that team approach and helping young people and indeed their parents and families. Some parents are frightened to get social services involved because the fear they're going to be blamed, that sort of thing. One particular wee lassie defends her father to the hilt, but he's clearly under pressure. Now, where does confidentiality come in here? Where can a teacher approach social work and say, this wee laddie or this wee lassie's got a problem, can you quietly have a look at it, sort of thing? And there's sensitivities there, obviously, but sometimes help doesn't get to the child because the child's protecting the parent and vice versa. So it's how much social service can be proactive with education that is probably more relevant to you.
I think we have open communication with our education colleagues, and we spend quite a lot of time working together. In relation to working quietly with families, that's really difficult. We've got to be transparent with our families about why social work might be involved, and our education colleagues would need to be open and honest about any conversations with social work and any referrals to social work. So that is something that we need to happen, so that we're working openly and transparently with parents. But we do have an early intervention family support service within social work, which we can look at those sort of perhaps more, family support. How do we help? What sort of smaller, lower level interventions and help might prevent a child then coming into the attention of perhaps social work from a more negative perspective. We try that is a service where we are looking at supporting. I mean, all social work, all children and family social work is there to help and support families. That's absolutely our aim, and our key aim is to keep families together, keep children at home. And I know that's not always the public perception of our role, but we do try to support our education colleagues. We have monthly Getting It Right for Every Child locality meetings where agencies come together and we'll share practice issues, we'll share themes, and we'll look at what is available and what resources are there to help, so that we are coming together on a monthly basis, education, health and social work, and we're looking at some of the key themes in our different areas, and how we help and support one another. Within the Annandale and Eskdale area specifically, Annan Academy is piloting an Annan Forum, which is a forum where we're looking at that early help and intervention where school might be stuck, and they might need a little bit of help from other agencies. So that involves different people from different agencies sitting around a table. They might talk about between 1 and 3 cases per month, and those for those cases that they bring in, the cases that they think they've exhausted their own resources but are looking for help and support from other agencies, and the The school will have spoken to the parent and the child and gained consent for their situation to be discussed within that forum, and the agencies around the table look at where is the best place for the child to access help. And that's actually been really successful in trying to, I suppose it's early days in terms of how that will work generally, and there's some evaluation of that taking place. But it's what's happening is that what we see is children are getting the help and support they need from that forum. Different agencies will take that referral away and agree to a piece of work. So that's some of the work that we're doing to try and get the help to children and families when they need it, and in supporting each other to undertake the work when we're all really struggling in terms of capacity.
Yeah, that's really encouraging. Through the chair, what I would like to see, I'm aware of the top line of Annan Academy because I met with the Parent Council recently and I'm meeting with the head teacher, and I think it's a really good project. I would like to see that more detail on that in front of this committee so as we can make further, get greater knowledge and information from that sort of approach. But beyond that, the council is setting up a subcommittee on poverty. And the attainment gap's a big part of that, and it goes back to the need for all services to work together. So what I would like to see is more information on just how successful schools and social service are working at the moment and what more we can do to enhance that. Because there's still, from my experience and asking in schools, that there's children there that are disadvantaged. The social services are aware of it, and the child's still with the parents, but it's really affecting their ability to perform at school. So it's getting, for counsellors, it's getting a better understanding of what's being done and how we can enhance it. And if it's a shortage of resources, then that's something that we'll have to look at. So that's what I would ask Ian, is that we have some sort of feedback on what actually is happening and what is not sufficient in their eyes, so that we can make some sort of political judgment on resources, etc.
Right, excellent. What I was wanting to do at the end is, it's not under any other business. When the meeting closes, Councillor Mail's already raised an issue in regards to having a report back on housing, how we deliver affordable housing element, Langham in particular. He's talking about the Murtham site, and I think I've got a personal view in regards to Borderlands. Let's see what's happening locally, Chapel Cross site, and if you're saying that as well, George, I think just even a 5-minute discussion after the meeting, it's almost part of an agenda setting for the next committee, if we can get that type of report coming to committee rather than just these performance.
No, that's grand.
Yep, no, excellent. Well, thanks so much for that, George. Thank you for that as well, Catherine. We've got Councillor Stephen Thompson next. Councillor Thompson, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think I probably echo your initial words just about, that level of detail we'd expect for Annandale and Eskdale, but I'll have a go anyway. So 4.2.2, it says about the community payback numbers are high, so I don't think it would be particularly in a sort of issue of sort of necessarily identifying people. So I'm just wanting to try and get a sense of what sort of numbers are we seeing, both regionally and how that breaks down for Annandale and Eskdale, and are we reaching the KPI target of 90%, not just regionally but locally? So is that local relevance again? And then the second bit would be on 4.2.4. Again, it's talking about delivery is high across the region, suggesting there's a fair amount of numbers that would reduce the risk of identifying anybody. But again, what sort of numbers are we talking about? And what is the increase, and what does that look like for Annandale and Eskdale specifically? And then 4.2.5, again, what sort of increase in the numbers of personal placements are we seeing generally? So that's just, again, probably helps allow for anonymity. And in particular in Annandale and Eskdale, if we could get a sense of that, is there a similar improvement in this locality as well compared to previous periods? And finally, at 4.3.2, again, I suppose numbers of referrals to Child MASH and those on the register, which you did touch on in your update at the start. I appreciate it can be sensitive, but there's generally a region-wide number which would be in the tens anyway. So probably wouldn't identify anybody. But if there is information that relates to Annandale and Eskdale, again, is that remaining steady, or is there an increase in that? So it's really just to get a sense of that locality information. Thank you.
I can apologise. I can't answer any of your questions in relation to justice services. I'm able to speak to the numbers on the Child Protection Register, which remain fairly consistent, but on a weekly basis, the numbers, there'll be children whose names are removed from the register and children whose names are placed on the register. So whilst the numbers do fluctuate, they remain fairly static. And currently, I think the numbers would be across the region in about 45, 46.
Okay, no, thanks, Kath. I appreciate you. You can only answer certain questions, but Chair, through yourself, I mean, maybe you'll come back to this at the end, as you said, but I think we probably are looking for, local information that we can get answers to, basically, and it might just be that we need to, additional people to speak to the report to cover what the report's actually talking about, because it's kind of a lot to put on Kath if she's kind of speaking to a report that she can't answer all the questions to, and that's no fault in Kath. But so that would be my feedback there, Chair. Thank you.
No, thanks very much for that, Stephen, and yourself as well, Kath. We see you're in a precarious position. Try to you don't have to justify. That's one thing that you don't have to do, but try to answer questions that you haven't actually. You're not the report author, but obviously in your backgrounds in children and families in particular, and not the justice system. So we absolutely accept that, and we'll use an alternative route in which to make sure whether it's yourself.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I had a couple of points, but I actually raised the first one about grow your own, and I welcome the fact that we're still continuing that because it has been successful in the past. I don't know if you can answer this one either, but it was just, I think you did touch on it as well about the child protection register, and it had reduced, but you're also saying that it's just in relation to, obviously some of these children will require to go into foster care. And I'm just wondering that certainly I think Social Services Committee recently, there is still an issue with the amount of foster carers we have in the region, despite harmonisation and an increase in the allowance across Scotland. But we're still faced with actually placing some of these young people in other local authorities. My main question is that I know that they're proactively looking to recruit additional foster carers, but also certainly I know a couple that used to foster care in Dumfries and Galloway, but because of the allowance and disparity in allowances, they went to Barnardo's. They're now just, they're providing that foster care across in Cumbria. And I'm just wondering, apart from proactively trying to recruit new foster carers, is there anything that we're doing to maybe reach out to these foster carers that used to be, they used to have that presence in Dumfries and Galloway, but have moved away? Is there anything that we're doing to maybe try and encourage them back with the increased allowance?
So I know we're actively recruiting, as you say. I don't know whether we're actively going to foster carers who were with us and encouraging them back now the allowance has increased. That's something that would be sat with our fostering and adoption team, which is not the area that I specifically work in. That's something that I can find out and come back with information about. What I can tell you is that Galloway is not alone in its struggles to recruit and place children in foster care. There's a national shortage of foster carers, and that is causing us issues in terms of finding the right placements for some of our children, and that does mean that on occasions children will be placed in placements out with the region. We are really trying to work towards increasing the number of foster carers and looking at how we support children to return to our region. We really don't want our children to be moved out of the region when they've lost sort of everything else, that they have to move out of the region isn't what we would want to advocate for them. So it is an issue. It's not an issue that Dumfries and Galloway alone are facing currently.
Thanks for that, Kath. And if you could kind of maybe just feedback, if they are doing anything to encourage previous foster carers that, operated in the region, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Kath. Thanks very much for that, Sean. I don't think we have any further questions. Some of my questions have been asked, but a brief one. So I will ask it anyways. For a while, you probably can't answer it, Kath, but it's the level of positive outcomes from our community payback. That was a general question. What did that look like in general terms? And you've got the MASH team. If ever you get a...
Again, apologies, I can't answer your justice social work question, but I can answer the MASH question. I'm social work lead for Child MASH, and what is we have a MASH managers meeting. So that brings together the social work leads for Child MASH and Adult MASH. It also brings together the Child Protection Advisor manager who oversees both to undertake child and adult initial referral discussions, and it brings together from a social work perspective. I then spend time with my team, and we look at the decision making. We look at where maybe there's perhaps differences of opinions, or where plans might have been looked at in a different way.